Hello everyone, welcome to ANIMERIUM. Today's video will be about top 10 manhwa where the main protagonist is a martial artist. For every manhwa in this list, I will include the description of the manhwa, number of chapters as per the date of making this video, and some information about the protagonist. The first manhwa we have is Mook Hyang, The Origins. This one is a ANIMERIUM manhwa. The term ANIMERIUM refers to martial arts world divided into factions like the Justice faction and the Demonic faction. The protagonist of this manhwa is number 2044, who was kidnapped as a child and was trained by the Demonic faction to become an assassin. After surviving through his hellish training, he earns the name Mook Hyang. Mook Hyang has an insatiable thirst for the sword and wants to reach the pinnacle with the sword. Follow his story as he goes through new experiences and tries to survive against the cruel world to reach the peak of the sword. This manhwa is now complete with 47 chapters and has a sequel called Mook Hyang Dark Lady, which is a really good manhwa in its own ways and has even more chapters than this one. The second manhwa in this list is Strong Gale Mad Dragon, Kang In Yong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I'll keep it like this. Kang In Yong is thrown into prison after being framed for the crimes he did not commit. His family also falls into decline because of this. At first, he doesn't even know why he is imprisoned. Believing that his friend will do his best to help him, he stays in the prison, not knowing what's happening outside. In that prison, Kang In Yong meets an old man who stays still in one place, but still no one dares to offend him. Due to a certain turn of events, the old man decides to make Kang In Yong his disciple and teach him the secret martial arts. Kang In Yong starts practicing these secret martial arts. He stays in the prison for 10 whole years to perfect this martial art. He is able to do so because of his master's words that he should not expect others to solve his problems for him, and that the strong are the ones who have the rights to decide, whereas the weak can only follow. Staying in the prison, he earns the title Mad Dragon and comes out of prison to follow the path of becoming the strongest martial arts master. This manhwa is currently at its 44th chapter. The next manhwa in this list is Life and Death, The Awakening. This manhwa follows a different way of progress as the protagonist Hwa-san is already a strong hidden master from the beginning. Hwa-san may look weak, but instead he is a brilliant scholar who has aced the civil services exams twice. He has connections with various high-ranking officials as well as the kings. One day, in order to protect the people of Hwa-san sect, he shows his real strength and massacres everyone. Nobody realizes who he is at first, but everyone is shocked when he reveals his real identity to the world. He is smart, cunning, and cruel towards his enemies, and does not hold back against anyone who dares to go against him. The world is turned upside down with the emergence of this guy who can explode people's heads with a simple forehead flick. This manhwa is currently at 51 chapters, with the end of season 1 at the 50th chapter. The fourth manhwa in this list is King of Fire Dragon, also known as Fire Dragon King. This manhwa starts in a very unique way. The protagonist, Seo Moon Moo-hui, is a weak-looking kid from a prestigious family. His family is not one of the martial arts families, but an artist family. Moo-hui is a genius painter whose paintings are praised by many. But he never draws the eyes. The reason being that whenever he draws the eyes of the subject on the painting, the one whose painting is drawn will die in weird ways, like getting hit by a horse carriage or being executed for treason. Moo-hui's eyes are special. He sees the world in a different way than other people. At the start of the story, he loses his will to live on as he ends up killing his brother by drawing his eyes on his painting reluctantly. Because of the despair and guilt from killing his own brother, he runs away from home. But his life starts changing when he sees the world of martial arts and starts learning martial arts. Follow his journey towards becoming stronger and watch him as he gets the title of the legendary painter. This manhwa is currently at 53 chapters. The next manhwa we have is Fist Demon of Mount Hua. This manhwa follows the story of Dam Ho. When he was a child, his village was raided and everyone except him was killed, leaving him as a sole survivor. He was saved by his master and taken to Mount Hua. But this was not the end of his misery. He had a limp leg, which was the worst possible condition for a martial artist. Even though he was the first disciple of his generation, everyone looked down upon him due to his disability. But he refuses to give up and keeps training to become stronger in his own way. His master, even himself being a scholar, helps him in any way he can, but this wasn't the end of his misery. He gets abandoned by his peers while on a mission and gets caught in a disaster. But his will to survive keeps him alive, and he keeps training even in this situation where others would lose all hope. After years of suffering and pain from being trapped underground, he perseveres and is able to come back. What will become of him? How strong can he become with his disability? Watch him change his fate as he keeps moving forward. This manhwa is currently at 67 plus chapters as of now. The next manhwa we have is The Undefeatable Swordsman. This is the story of Song Woo-moon. He is the eldest son of the Song family. His family owns an inn and he works at the inn along with his father. They barely manage to get by every month with what they earn. At a young age, Song Woo-moon was smart and energetic, whereas his younger brother was average in intellect but physically strong. As he grew up, having a weak constitution caused more problems for him. One day, an old man came to their inn but did not have any money to afford a meal, so he drew a painting for them instead. When Song Woo-moon looked at the painting, it starts to affect his mind. His mind gets lost into the painting and his intellect begins to decline. Now everyone thinks of him as a fool and looks down upon him. After looking at the painting for a long time, he discovers the secret in the painting and begins to restore his intellect, increasing his abilities. What was this painting? Who was that old man? Read the manhwa to follow the protagonist as more secrets are revealed about his mysterious father and his sickly mother. Thus begins the journey of Song Woo-moon as he climbs the stairs to become a martial arts master. This manhwa is currently at 100 chapters. The next manhwa in this list is Lightning Degree. The protagonist is a child named Ryu Yeon. He loses both his parents at a young age. His mother died when he was just a child, and he lost his father to a disease when he was just 10 years old. Only knowing how to carve wood, which he learned from his father, he makes a sculpture of his parents for their tomb. That day, he meets an elderly man who, after being impressed by his sculptures, asks him to become his disciple. Having nowhere to go, the protagonist decides to accept the old man's offer, not knowing what he will have to go through. This manhwa is different from the others in a few ways. The first being the progression of the story, the weird ways in which he is trained by his master, and having all sorts of weird twists and turns. But you will have to be patient for the first 10 to 15 chapters before the story starts to become serious. This manhwa has violence, betrayal, and hilarious moments as well as a unique martial arts journey for the protagonist. This manhwa is currently at 107th chapter. The next manhwa we have is Legend of the Northern Blade. The Northern Heavenly Sect fought against the dark forces and brought peace through hard-fought battles and bloodshed. However, as time passed, martial artists of the sect started to conspire against the Northern Heavenly Sect and eventually caused the death of the sect leader, destroying the sect along with it. Only the son of the leader was spared as he had never learned any martial arts. Looked down upon by the few people left in the run-down sect, his life became worse than a beggar's. Even the people left in the now ruined sect were only there to keep the protagonist under surveillance. But Jin Woo-won, the protagonist, had not given up yet. He found the secret martial arts of the Northern Heavenly Sect left by his father. He starts training and begins to acquire the martial techniques of the Northern Heavenly Sect right under the watchful eyes of his enemies. This manhwa follows the story of Jin Woo-won as he becomes stronger and begins his journey to get revenge against those who wronged him. This manhwa is currently at 118th chapter. The next manhwa we have is Bow Blade Spirit. Other manhwa usually have the protagonist use swords, fists, poison, etc. But in this one, the protagonist mainly focuses on archery than the sword. From a young age, the protagonist lived with his grandfather in the mountains. He trained every day under his grandfather's watchful eyes and learned how to wield the bow and master the arts of archery by mastering the key-guided arrow and the formless arrow. The protagonist perseveres against all odds and begins mastering archery along with other hunting skills from his grandfather. After completing his training, his grandfather sends him on a trip to search for a wife. This is the story of the hero who will shock the entire Miurim with his exceptional archery and save the lives of many people in times of war in the Miurim. This manhwa is currently at chapter 123. Finally, we are at the last manhwa of this list, and it's called Record of the War God. The protagonist opened his eyes after 20 years. Through the ravages of time, everyone had forgotten about him. His enemies thought that he had died 20 years ago, but he has now come back to stop the cults aiming to dominate the lands. Surprisingly, the protagonist still looks really young even after 20 years. So, what happened to him all those years ago? How did he survive? Read the manhwa to learn more about his past and his path to once again make his name known throughout the world. The one called Mook Hyang, the war god, has come back. This manhwa is currently at 126th chapter. With this, today's video is complete. These manhwa are ranked according to the number of chapters in increasing order from the 1st to the 10th. I hope everyone liked this video. I will be back with another video in the future with even more related content. Till then, take care and see you next time.